Greetings fellow theorists and Brawl Stars community members. Welcome back to another Brawl Theory video where we will dive into the current lore developments surrounding the most recent Candyland update. This includes the newest brawler Mandy, as well as the dark truth behind the edible merchandise and the overall direction the Star Park lore is heading. All that and much more, so buckle up because we have a lot to discuss. But before we get to that, I would like to address a certain mystery event that I hosted in preparation for this Brawl Theory video. Throughout the month of December, I posted cryptic messages over numerous social media platforms with hopes that the community would discover certain hints and clues to my next Brawl Theory video. Numerous Morse code posts, word puzzles, riddles, cryptic messages, and hidden details regarding key numbers that provided crucial clues to the Brawl Theory video and its release. If you noticed, I made these cryptic posts at approximately 1:28 AM and 1:28 PM Eastern Standard Time, which ended up being the date that I released the Brawl Theory video, January 28th, the 28th day of the first month. I also modified some of the characters within my Twitter name to display another key factor of my Brawl Theory video, specifically the I and the E, which I switched out for a 1 and a 3. 1 and 3 make up 13, which can further be deciphered to represent the time at which this Brawl Theory video was released, January 28th at 1300 on the 24-hour clock, which is 1 PM on the standard 12-hour clock. I made a post with a crucial secret that many had trouble deciphering. To put it into context, it was this post about Star Park. Now, if you examine it more in depth, you would be able to identify certain letters and words capitalized. Those all would make up a message that spells out, "Help me, I am in trouble with Star Park," further foreshadowing events to come. I had a ton of fun planning and executing this mystery because it was something that has never been done before, and I wanted to see if anyone would be able to fathom its meaning. I would like to give a huge shout out to these individuals who were some of the first to uncover certain pieces of the puzzle from the rather large mystery. There were many others that helped out in solving this mystery, but honestly, it would take a while for me to name them all. So, thank you to everyone. I really hope you all enjoyed this mystery I constructed to prepare you for this Brawl Theory video. Now, without further ado, let's begin by first addressing the Candyland update. Theory 1. The Candyland is a trap. Within the Brawl Talk, we witnessed numerous questionable things. However, I think the one that takes the cake occurs reasonably close to the beginning of the video. I'm sure many of us were taken back by the sight of Paula fictitiously consuming her own hand. An appalling act that was intended to be perceived as a fun and innocent charade proves how Star Corporation manipulates our perception of reality and action. Now, to put it into context, it was an artificial hand. However, I think, metaphorically speaking, it's the symbolism that really matters. So, this then begs the question, what does it represent? Well, not too long ago, Danny informed us that in the Candyland, everything is edible.
This is Candyland, where you can eat everything.
This means that every person, every place, and everything is suitable for human consumption. However, this idea could, would, and should spark numerous intellectual debates. Not only would this then propel the argument that Star Corporation acknowledges cannibalism metaphorically speaking, but also physically speaking. They know full well what the Candyland is doing to their consumers, yet in spite of that, they are not taking any directorial action to resolve this crisis. The question then becomes, why? Well, the answer becomes even more clear-cut once we inspect what exactly they are selling and what it could possibly be doing to the consumer. To no one's surprise, the Candyland is selling candy. It is interesting to point out that for some of the candy being sold, it has already been listed on the starpark.biz website for years. For instance, there is this listing for a gumball machine that states it's completely full and the gumballs may or may not be okay to eat. I also find the shape of the gumballs very unusual. Most, if not all, of the gumballs manufactured and sold are hollow on the inside, but to me, these seem dense or full, as if they are filled with something, which I assume is not safe for consumption, seeing as though little to none were consumed, and they openly state the gumballs may or may not be okay to eat. I don't believe it is just listed as unsafe because it is possibly old or expired, but rather because it's covertly hinting toward its hazardous ingredients and or dangerous effects it has on the individual once ingested. And truth be told, if something says it may or may not be okay to eat, you should definitely avoid it at all costs. Needless to say, it's interesting how some of the commodities sold in the Candyland have the Star Park brand imprinted on the wrappers. Here are a few of my personal assumptions on why. Conjecture 1. Star Park wants to be known as the principal supplier for the Candyland's edible merchandise. Conjecture 2. Star Corporation wants to subtly permeate their existence, even if certain events such as the destruction of the WKBRL stream and Star Park's collapse in 2020 may disprove of this. And lastly, conjecture 3. Something about that particular piece of candy is significant. The chocolate visible within the Brawl Talk and seasonal animation could be the same chocolate from the StarPark.biz website, but reconfigured in a circular arrangement. These theories are still up in the air and no conjectures have been set in stone. Nevertheless, I do find it strange that there was only one bite taken out of that piece of candy. It's not a coincidence either. This same one-bitten piece of candy showed up in the Brawl Talk as well as the seasonal animation, possibly hinting toward it being a significant component. Why just one bite? What did that candy do to the consumer, and why wasn't it immediately disposed? These are questions that still remain unanswered. Even the bubblegum they have listed on the StarPark.biz website has a visible, inedible label printed on it. Why would Star Park intentionally sell a product that is meant for human consumption, yet have it be inedible? This essentially means that it contains something so toxic and seriously harmful to those that ingested it, but not in the way that you might think. Additionally, those same gumballs are spotted in the Brawl Talk animation behind Mandy. What's even more interesting is the fact that they seem to be the gumballs that fuel Rico. However, he appears much different and looks almost artificial, as if he was turned back from robot form into a literal gumball machine. This brings me to my next point. Theory 2. The candy is dangerous. If you analyze the Candyland Brawl Talk animation closely, you might have actually been able to spot some brawlers in confection form. This consists of, but is not limited to, Gene, Spike, Rico, Mortis, and Sandy. Each one of them seem to be sellable commodities in the Candyland, presumably for consumption. I believe that what were once originally living brawlers are now edible arrangements in the Candyland. But the question then becomes, how? How would something once living transform into an edible delicacy? Well, the Candyland and Star Corporation need to be held accountable for their misdeeds, because there is more to this than meets the eye. First and foremost, I suspect that once individuals enter the Candyland and start consuming any of the edible merchandise, their bodies will begin to turn artificial and cosmetable, eventually ending up in the form of candy. I believe that the commodities they are selling contains life-threatening substances that will quickly go into the bloodstream, mutilating our bodies. So, as a proper precaution, avoid ingesting any of the commodities in the Candyland, as I believe it commences the physical and chemical transformation process. However, I fear that if you are in the Candyland, you are too late. I believe that the candy sold in the Candyland is extremely addictive, which is the reason why it attracts so many. Customers believing it's purely harmless, when in fact, it's the contrary. I believe that the candy contains such a dangerously addictive substance with effects so dire, it's agonizing. Yet, the problem then lies in the first bite. Once you ingest even a minuscule amount of candy, you are doomed. Furthermore, I believe that those that are turned into fragments of candy are incapable of reversing the inflicted damage, and the proof for this conjecture lies in plain sight. Within the Brawl Talk, we can spot Gene, Spike, and Rico modified candies. They aren't just candy designed to represent them, but rather it is them, in a consumable form. They were not only transformed chemically speaking, but also physically speaking, and their entire demeanor has been drastically altered. In the Brawl Talk, we also see Sandy and Mortis Candy, which alludes to the fact that they have already been transformed themselves. I do worry for Bonnie though, as we see her slowly enter the Candyland, unaware of what the place truly is and how harmful the candy is. Additionally, it also explains how Paula's hand magically turns into an edible confection. Now, it is important to understand the connections between Star Park and the Candyland. Figuratively speaking, Star Park acts as the focal location to all of the sectors or environments within Brawl Stars. Picture the Smithsonian, for instance, an institution separated into diverse sectors. However, the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History acts as the focal point to all of the branches of the museum. This is how we can interpret Star Park when in relation to its environments. Star Park acts as that focal point to all of the environments, and those environments act as supplementary divisions. I would like to provide you with an accurate depiction of what the Candyland truly is: a hypnotic dreamland aimed towards young adults and children. Unfortunately, the children are blindsided by what seems to be a utopia, just like Star Park was. Only this time, the Candyland acts as a place where children are forced to ingest harmful substances in the form of tasty candy. The candy they consume allows their body to become susceptible to harmful chemical modifications with their DNA, turning them into edible objects unable to escape the nightmares they once thought were dreams. You may be thinking to yourself, well, what about the adults? Well, don't forget that throughout the investor video, we only saw adults, apart from Leon and Nita, who were technically accompanied by their parents. However, once their parents disappeared after the ride and only the children returned, they were both handed peculiar merchandise and never seen or heard from again. So, this begs the question, where are all of the children? And now, after all of the examination is complete, it is clear. They are all in the Candyland. Once they arrive at Star Park, the parents are quickly separated from their children. The adults are brainwashed and forced to work at Star Park, or are brainwashed to the point of unconsciousness. Whereas, the children are all sent to the Candyland sector of Star Park. This is also the place where most of the children are secretly tested on. It's also interesting that in the investor video, we see a Star Corporation affiliate hand a child a piece of candy, a lollipop to be specific, and that child is who we know today as Leon, a brawler addicted to lollipops. His whole character is based upon that one attribute. It's also worth noting that that lollipop is one of Mandy's candies, edible to all but extremely harmful. The Star Park employee that handed Leon and Nita the merchandise also pointed to a specific location, which I assume was the Candyland, or one could possibly argue that she sent them to the Star Park entrance, where they filmed the Gus introduction video. Both Leon and Nita were part of it, and there is adequate evidence to support that claim. Needless to say, Mandy's candy is not just questionably edible merchandise from the Candyland, but literal brawlers transfigured into edible form. This clearly explains how dark and demented the Candyland district in Star Park really is, and Star Corporation in general, authorizing and participating in such heinous crimes. To the oblivious children, they view the Candyland as a utopia, but the truth lies in the candy itself, which in fact isn't candy at all. Instead of recalling and revoking all of Star Park's edible merchandise, they continue authorizing such commodities to be widely distributed. Now, when it comes to Mandy's hypnotic and cheerful melody, Mandy's Candy, it's no surprise that it would have a darker or more shadowed upon meaning. The lyrics go as follows. These lines are recited numerous times to the point that some could reason it's mind-numbing. However, I think that was Star Park's intention from the beginning. I believe that the adults were forced to listen to the WKBRL livestream where they were then sent into a hypnotic trance, while the children were forced to listen to the candy song 24/7, and since they heard it so much, they began reciting the lines, sending themselves into a trance-like state. This song may be catchy, but it possesses a much darker tone, one that Star Corporation wanted to mask with insincere joy and happiness. It is worth mentioning that the hints to the Candyland first appeared in the 2020 Star Park Investor video. If you pay close attention to the background behind the host, you'd be able to catch a glimpse of two distinctive lollipops. Now, let's cast our attention to the Candyland season animation, where you can also identify the exact same red lollipop. These subtle update connections also appeared for the Robot Factory update with the Control Center and Boss Robot, which was later present within the Brawl Talk and the update itself. Theory 3. Star Park is rapidly expanding. For the last few years, every update in Brawl Stars has mentioned Star Park in one way or another.
We would like to present the Star Park Gardens.
This lab is where we create all the beautiful flowers, plants, and creatures in Star Park. Otis is a mysterious creature who lives in the depths of Star Park, the Robot Factory, the home of all those crazy robots you see in Star Park.
Mandy, the Brawl Pass brawler, is the CEO of the Star Park's Candyland.
Each environment is in close proximity to Star Park, however, we've gotten no elaboration on why and how. I believe that the investor video we received in 2020 was their final attempt at convincing any investors to join because they knew their plan was failing. They unintentionally allowed individuals to form large unions against Star Corporation's beliefs and actions, which became near to impossible for them to dissolve. This is why Star Corporation terminated their first worldwide Star Park and have been developing a secondary, more secure center in secret for years. The incidents we received last year with the WKBRL stream being revamped and Kairos 10 were just subtle hints for what is to come. The universe is expanding both drastically and rapidly, and we are constantly being reminded of Star Park and its vengeful return. In closing, I strongly advise everyone to steer clear of any edible commodities sold or manufactured by Star Corporation and its affiliates. It will not only cause you a great deal of harm, but harm those around you, and if we do not expose their malfeasances soon, it could result in serious consequences and major irreversible health problems. We may be unable to assist those who have already ingested such toxins, however, we could possibly prevent any future individuals from risking their lives. The theory crafting is not over just yet, as I am putting the finishing touches on yet another Brawl Theory video that will mostly focus on uncovering the truth behind Chester. So, stay tuned for that. It is going to be very interesting, to say the least. However, you might actually be watching this video by the time that second part has released, so in that case, I will attach a prompt on screen where you can click to watch the video. As always, thank you for watching, stay safe, and I will see you guys soon. So, now the question remains. Will you act in accordance with Order 823, condemning Star Corporation's transgressions?
If so, please act swiftly and adequately, as time is of the essence.